All right, everybody, welcome in to another edition of the College Court Report podcast. It's been 2 weeks since we've been on. Conflicting schedules kind of limit us when all three of us live in three different cities. We've got a two-man show tonight, myself and Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, not bad at all. 2 weeks into the season. It's been an exciting time, lots to talk about since we last caught up. A lot of big events, big tournaments, a lot of standout games, standout performances. It's been a good time so far, and we're only 2 weeks in. We got a lot of basketball left to go.
I can't believe people only watch college basketball for March Madness. I mean, do they realize the games that happen right now? I mean, the PK80 was unbelievable. The Battle for Atlantis was pretty good. The Maui Invitational was good. We'll talk about that later. But specifically the PK80, that was like what a great tournament that was. I hope they keep this tournament on for years to come. I know like Phil Knight, it will be 81 next year, so they call it the PK81. But I don't know how they're going to do it. And I don't know if it's going to be a 1-year tournament. But a lot of great teams put together, a lot of great matchups that you wouldn't see unless this tournament came to be. So I hope that they just keep doing this because it was a fun tournament to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, Phil Knight only turns 80 once, so they kind of got to change it up every year. But I mean, I'm turning 28. Give me the TB 28. Could host one and bring it up to Toronto or something. I don't know. Bring
You
teams
keep
with
dreaming.
Canadians on it. Hey, a guy can dream. A guy can dream. But no, like you said, a lot of great matchups in that one, and a lot of great basketball too across the board. You had Portland State in particular in the motion bracket. Um, really took it to um, Duke and Butler, and then ultimately beat Stanford by 9. I think it was in the final game. So I mean, you had them right away. The Vikings coming seventh when people picked them to finish eighth. Um, Obviously, North Carolina, Michigan State in the final of the victory bracket. Duke, Florida in the final of the motion bracket. The Gonzaga, Florida game in the semifinals was absolutely crazy. Um, Hopefully, an event like this comes back next year because, like you said, it gives you matchups that you're not going to see during the regular season. And it's a great way to build that positive buzz around the NCAA, especially with the offseason they had with the FBI scandal and all that
Oh,
nonsense.
absolutely. And a lot of great teams emerging. I mean, we all know how good Duke is. They like to start off slow, but every single one of their games when they were down, whether it was Texas, Florida, or Portland State, I still knew that they were coming back to win that game. Maybe not so much Florida, but Florida's starting to emerge its own, um, emerge itself. I can't talk today. As maybe the leader of the SEC. I don't know if Kentucky can handle them. Obviously, Gonzaga is good. Texas is they're pretty good. They still got some ways to go. Um, Michigan State obviously probably going to be the leader of the Big Ten. So a lot of positives to take away, and we're starting to get to know who the better teams are. Um, so yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and you mentioned Duke coming strong in the second half. They've struggled, I think, in every game this year in the first half, but they've really brought it on in the second. I think if they keep playing like that, it's going to catch up to them sooner rather than later. Like somebody's going to put them behind in a big hole after the first half, and yeah, they might claw their way back in the second half, but it might not be enough. They might find themselves in too big of a hole where their youth can't get them back all the way. They might not have that adversity to come back from a big game, especially in ACC play with the daily grind that is tough team after tough team. If they put themselves in a couple holes early on, they could find themselves on a quick 2-3 game losing streak right away.
Oh, absolutely. But like the positives that Coach K can take away is that they've rose to the occasion for teams like Florida,
Mm-hmm.
teams like Texas, teams like Michigan State, who they've already played. That was a 1 versus 2
Mm-hmm.
game. A lot of good things to take away. But when they get into ACC play, like your Louisville's, your Miami's, your Notre Dame's, um, your Virginia Tech, who's probably going to be a dark horse. I don't know if they're going to be able to come back from it. I assume they would. Yeah, I mean, Duke is Duke. And as long as they have healthy a healthy starting five, they should be good. But I think they'll be fine. I think we're slowly starting to see the emergence of Duke being really
Mm-hmm.
dominant. Given the way Bagley's playing, I mean, I don't know how you cannot put him as the number one overall recruit in the 2018 draft. The guy's been a monster. In the Florida game, he dropped 30 points, 15 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block. The guy's having a time out there.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, you can only play with fire so much before you get burned, and if they keep
That's true.
going down this road, they're going to get burned sooner than later. Like I said, but like you said, like we are starting to get to know these teams. We're starting to pick up on a lot of their tendencies and who kind of steps up in key situations. And with Duke being undefeated and clearly asserting themselves as the alpha dog in the NCAA this year, is there any chance in your mind that you see them going 40-0?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I mean, Kentucky was close one
Yeah,
year,
Final Four loss.
but yeah, I don't see that happening. It's just it's hard to win in college basketball. Given the amount of games that they
Mm-hmm.
have, and I would not make that bet in Vegas. I mean, that it would pay off well, but I would not make the bet. I could see them going undefeated up until um, conference play starts up, and then even when they play the teams like your Clemson's and Boston College, I could see them winning those games out. But against Notre Dame, Virginia
Mm-hmm.
Tech, Louisville, I don't know about those ones.
Yeah, but those games against the bottom half teams are sometimes the ones that sneak up on these top seeds
Oh,
and catch them off
absolutely.
guard because they're looking past them, looking for those upper echelon teams in the conference. Like they've got Boston College one day, perhaps, and they've got a Virginia the next. And they're looking at Virginia, and Boston College comes in and knocks them off by 2 at home. Those are the games that kind of sneak up on them. But no, I agree. I can see them going undefeated up to conference play and maybe the first couple games. But once that grind gets going, if you've got like a Louisville and a Virginia or a Miami back to back, like within a span of 3 days, like a Thursday and a Saturday, you're going to lose one of the two, especially
Well, I mean,
especially on the road, right?
go ahead.
Especially on the road.
Yeah.
In conference play, anything can happen, and the level of parity in the NCAA today is probably at an all-time high. You've got teams beating like North Carolina A&T just went out and beat East Carolina, and they had 3 wins last year, and they've got 5 this year already. So the level of parity, the talent across the board, I think, is higher than what has ever been, and I don't think you can count out any team on any given night.
No, absolutely not. I mean, well, like look at when Duke played Portland State. I mean, they were losing
Mm-hmm.
up until I forget when they started. I think it was like a little into the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Portland State had a legitimate shot of winning that game had they not had so many guys in foul troubles, and that's when all the technical fouls start happening. Um, you know, uh, Grayson Allen started to become a little Grayson Allen. I don't know. He got shoved a couple times, but then he was taunting some people. That's basketball. I like that. Um, but I could see Duke saying, "Yeah, this is just Portland State. Who are we taking on, Texas or Butler?" Like kind of looking ahead because it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with 18 to 22-year-olds, I wouldn't doubt that that these guys are just. I want to play the better teams. Who are we? Who are we going to face next? They're the number one team in the country, so they may they act like it. They know that no one can beat them, but
Mm-hmm.
like Portland State, this is their big game. This is their big moment to take on Duke, and on a stage like this, they're going to rise to the occasion. They're not going to just get shoved around.
As soon as Deontay North got tossed from that game for sitting on the waiting to check in on the sideline for chirping, as soon as he got tossed, it was over. I mean, he
Was
was that.
was it chirping?
Yeah, oh yeah, he was giving the gears to somebody, but never seen. I don't think I've ever seen that happen. But I think as soon as he got tossed, he was leading the team. I think he had like 24 points or something like that. And as soon as he picked up his fifth, their momentum was gone. And I think,
That
and
was it.
then, I mean, Bryce Canada did his best to keep the guys in it, and but at the end of the day, Duke was just too much. Came out with like an 18-point win, but you got to give, like you said, that was Portland State's big stage. You got to give the Vikings credit for fighting for 3 straight days and eventually picking up a big win over Stanford in the seventh, eighth place game. So all in all, I'd see it's a success for Portland. I think they're now 5-2 for Portland State. Sorry, so considering you,
Yeah, Portland did do so well against North
yeah,
Carolina.
Portland themselves didn't look good.
102 to 78.
They showed up. They had fun. That's all that matters. But no, like you said, this game was fantastic across the board, and this whole event, and hopefully we see something similar to it or the exact same thing back next year.
I gotta say, were you watching the Michigan State North Carolina game?
I caught bits and pieces of it. Yeah.
Okay, did you listen to what Bill Walton said about like Bridges? So he was talking about Miles Bridges,
Mm-hmm.
and then he starts going off. He's like, he's not related to the Brooklyn Bridge, and then he just starts naming up all these bridges, and I'm like, what? What happened? He was just out to lunch. And the things that he says, like through the whole PK tournament, he was just like, I love rain. I love Portland. I love donuts. It's like, who is this guy? Why is he calling? Yeah,
that's him though. That's him.
That. Well, it was an experience.
He's permanently out to lunch, and that's why they put him on Pac-12 After Dark, because no one's up to listen to him.
Honestly, though,
ridiculous.
They have like a segment sometimes when he's calling the games called Walton's World. I'm like, Jesus.
Even his colleagues have fun with it. Like, that's ridiculous. This guy needs to check himself at the door.
The one time he goes, that Bridges is really good. This is the best game I think he's been playing. And at that point, he scored like he only had 5 points, and his partner was like, Bill, this is the first time you've ever watched Bridges. He's like, I know. It's just stuff like that.
Well, he wasn't lying then. It was the best game you've seen him play, because it was the only one you've seen him play.
Hey, there you go.
Looking at another turn of the battle for Atlantis. A bit of a surprising run with Arizona going 0-3. What the hell is going on in Tucson?
I have no idea. Besides me not liking the sponsor of the name for the Battle for Atlantis, the Bad Boy Mowers Battle for Atlantis, that's cringy. But besides that, I have no idea what is going on with Arizona. I mean, they didn't lose by much to SMU, but they still lost. And then they got creamed by Purdue, and they lost by 6 to NC State. They are falling apart. They're definitely not worthy of a top 25 ranking, even though they aren't anymore. They're in for some trouble. I'm not liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that was a big fall from grace for the Wildcats, going from number 2 to, I think, 4th or 5th on the list in receiving votes. So they dropped 28 spots almost. Like, that is, I think that's unheard of in a week. But they need to realize that I think DeAndre Ayton is their best player, and I think the offense should run through him in the middle. They keep trying to go guards first. They need to work it inside to Ayton, go back out. They need to realize that he's their best option on offense. Focus on him, and then let everything else fall into place. But, I mean, it is still early. They've still got plenty of time to figure it out. But at the same time, like, that's not a good start for Arizona, not a good start for the Pac-12 as a whole. With that being your marquee team coming into the season, I'm at a loss for words with what transpired in Atlantis.
Well, I agree with your comments about Ayton. I mean, the guy dropped 27 and 14 in the NC State game, dropped 22 and 8 in the Purdue game, and I'm a little mixed up with games. I have my tabs all mixed up, but then he went 17 and 15 in the SMU game. So definitely, if you're looking at a number standpoint, definitely he's the guy to go. But yeah, I agree. The Pac-12 is not looking good so far. So who do you think is going to emerge out of the Pac-12 as the season goes on?
Well, I still think it's Arizona's to lose. I mean, with the talent they have and the potential on their roster, I think they'll get it straightened out. Um, but it is a bit concerning the fact that they came in with um, such a positive buzz around the team and all this preseason hype, and with a guy like Ayton, and you've got Lonzo Trier and Raul Alkins and this talented roster, and you thought maybe this is the year Sean Miller goes to a Final Four and wins a title. I still think the Pac-12 goes through Tucson. You have to still beat Arizona to get that title. Oregon, still up in the air a bit. Stanford was a team I was high on until they lost to Portland State and went 0-3 at PK80.
USC?
I think USC will be second. I mean, they did just lose to Texas A&M, but that's a top 20 battle. Can't go wrong with there. It's not a bad loss, I don't think. I mean, they did lose at home, but that's another story. They'll get their stuff straightened out as well. Washington State has surprised a lot of people, going 6-0, winning the Wooden Legacy. I think they might turn a few heads. You've got Arizona State, who's now in the top 25 as well. So I think there's a lot of teams that have surprised people early on, both good and bad. That kind of adds another element of surprise to the Pac-12 that I think people might have thought it'd be a little down this year in comparison to last. And then, of course, you got UCLA, who you never really know what they're going to do and what to expect. You just cross your fingers and hope for the best for them.
Has LiAngelo played?
Suspended.
So, okay, I didn't hear. How long was he suspended for?
Indefinitely.
Oh, okay.
So all three of them are out indefinitely. And who knows when they'll come back.
So that's just when he feels like it's died down, and then he can just put him back in.
They say when they've learned their lesson, but yes, probably when it's died down enough. And I'm going to say non-conference plays over, new year starts, bring the guys back in, let's go to town. Because they'll want that extra depth for the Pac-12 play.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I mean, because, like, I knew he was suspended, but I didn't know, like, if he was back yet, because I figured he would have been back by now, because, I don't know, the whole thing kind of blew over as soon as the tournament play started rolling on, and, Trump did another thing in the news. I just thought,
LeVar hasn't made any comments yet, so he's been quiet for a while, so I think it's pretty much water under the bridge at this point, and they're just stretching it out a bit longer for the meaningless games to make people think that they're teaching these kids a lesson. In reality, they're just waiting for, I don't know what they're waiting for, but
in reality, they got off scot-free.
Trying to save face with society and China and the Pac-12 conference, just to say, oh yeah, we suspended them for this long. That's enough punishment. But I mean, they stayed at a luxury hotel in China. They didn't even go to prison. It was sick of hearing about it before it even happened, to be honest.
That's why I knew as soon as the news came out that they were arrested and could face, and the news articles said they could face up to 10 years in prison. I said, they're not staying in China. Relax.
No. Could you imagine, though, that 3 college basketball players had to do 10 years in prison in China?
Oh, God. I don't even want to picture what a Chinese jail looks like.
I don't want to picture what any jail looks like.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
But let alone a Chinese jail.
That's why you follow the rules there, Tyler.
That's why you don't steal Louis Vuittons.
When you have enough money to buy Louis Vuittons.
Yes, real ones, not fake ones.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I had that much money.
I wish I had any kind of money.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, just, a little stability here and there would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
That's a first world problem, though. Save that for another day.
Yeah.
Speaking of first world problems, Trae Young and Collin Sexton, 2 of the top players in the country, let alone freshman class. You've got Trae Young, who put up 43 points on Oregon at the PK80. And you've got Collin Sexton, who put up 40 on Minnesota when it was 3-on-5 for the last 10.5 minutes. And that was probably one of the craziest games I've ever seen in college basketball. The entire bench getting tossed. And then guy getting his 5th foul, going down to 4 guys, and then Petty rolling his ankle with 10 and a half left in the second half. So Alabama had to play with 3 guys in a top 25 matchup against Minnesota, outscored the Golden Gophers by 8 over that stretch. It only lost by 5.
I have never seen anything like this before.
That has to be one of the most impressive feats on a college basketball court in a long time.
Minnesota's pretty good. I mean, they're ranked number 14.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I mean. Like, against Minnesota, 14th ranked team, Sexton's hitting shots out of his mind that he shouldn't hit. Just carrying the 2 guys. I mean, it's a 2-guy roster. He wasn't carrying a whole lot. But at the same time, the fact that he put up 40 in that game and they only lost, I think it was lost by 5.
Yeah, 89-84.
Absolutely insane. The guy's a beast, an absolute beast.
That's why when he was suspended, I was mad because I've wanted to watch him play for a long time now, and I knew he would be doing stuff like this in college. Like, just the moment I saw his game tape from high school, I just loved his patience, his ball handling skills, the way he attacks and finishes at the rim. It's just, he's a great shooter as well. So, like, he's bringing the hype. He's showing really why he was, one of the best guards to come out of high school this year. And I can't wait to see what he does next. Hopefully he stays a year. Don't think that's going to happen considering the amount of numbers he's putting up. And I maybe thought he was too short to go to the NBA, but he's 6'3". That's decent size. I thought he was a lot shorter than that. But
I mean, in fairness, he missed 1 game. So you had to wait, an extra 2 days to see him in college? He missed 1 game.
And it was against, some small school. They weren't losing that game.
No. I mean, they're 5-1 right now?
Yeah, they
lost to Minnesota. Yeah, so I mean, they were 5-0. He missed 1 game, a meaningless game against a small program that they were going to beat anyways. And here you are complaining that you had to wait longer to see him play.
Oh, I'm just saying the complaining didn't last long, but it was still there because there was still a fear of losing him for the whole year. So, glad he's back. 40 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal. That's nuts. If that was a smaller school, they definitely would have pulled that one out. The fact that they only lost 5 to Minnesota, it's impressive.
Well, I think in fairness too, they probably wouldn't have fought if it was any other team. Just heated moment emotions. As soon as you stepped on that court off the bench, it's a no-no. You see one guy trying to hold them all back, and as soon as they stepped on, he's just like, "Fuck it, I'm moving away. They're already gone." But it was funny though. That's a nice little walk of shame down the corridor. One after another, the whole bench is just filing out.
Hilarious.
Sulking their heads. And then just to add insult to injury, you got the 5th foul, and then you've got Petty rolling his ankle. But credit Avery Johnson for keeping his 3 guys in the game, and credit them for not fouling out. Could you imagine it was like 5-on-2 or 5-on-1?
Oh, God.
That'd be hilarious. Just got one guy standing there in the middle and just hoping to draw an offensive foul every time.
Be no chance.
It'd be absolutely
whatsoever. However, what I take out of this game is they've got grit. They won't back down from anything. They've got what it takes to come back and to come back with what anything is thrown at them. Which is good for when you get into conference play, conference tournament play, and then hopefully they make it to the big dance. I have a feeling they will. But even though only 3 of them really showed how well they can come back, just the culture itself kind of shows this team's legit. This team has a real shot to do some damage.
Yeah, and it shows that they're not going to give up, too. Like, if their back's against the wall, they're going to fight till the end, regardless of how many guys are on that court, regardless of which guys are out there. And I think that it's a testament to Avery Johnson and how he coaches his team and how he gets his guys ready, and like you said, the culture that they have at Alabama to really show that they're not just a football school anymore. They are a basketball school. They are a bona fide contender in the SEC when they have their whole roster at their disposal. Mind you, if you're playing with 3 guys every night, you're not going to do so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a testament to that entire program from top to bottom that even though they had 3 guys, they continued to fight, outscored a top 15 team by 8 points over a 10.5 minute span, and ended up losing by 5. I think that's a huge, huge testament to the Crimson Tide program from top to bottom.
I'll tell you, the SEC is really coming into its own, like not just as a football school. There obviously have been a football conference for a while. They're known for their football, but now they're slowly. It's not just Kentucky and Florida versus everyone. They're starting to become a pretty good basketball conference too. You got obviously Alabama, Kentucky, Florida. You got teams like Vanderbilt picking up some big recruits. I'm excited to watch, Missouri with Michael Porter Jr. Hopefully, maybe he stays another year. Needless to say, I'm excited for the SEC. It's not just a Kentucky versus all conference.
Did you see Porter's Instagram story yesterday or the day before?
No, I didn't.
Put on
No.
It's a picture of a pink chair and a couch, but it said, "Whoever said 3 to 4 month recovery lied." So I think he might play this year. I think he might come back early. I don't know if it's true or not, but based on his Instagram story, if you buy into all that social media buzz and whatnot, he may be hinting at an early return, and we might see Porter back at some point this season, which would be huge for Missouri and huge for college basketball as a whole.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, if he comes back at a time that, the season's still there in their hands, that they can do something with it, I think he could really help them. I mean, Missouri's been doing not too bad. They won against Iowa State, Wagner, Emporia State, only lost to Utah and West Virginia. They lost to West Virginia 83-79. So so they're doing pretty well without him. But if he can come back and help the Tigers weed through this, getting to be tough SEC, I think they have a shot of making the dance.
Yeah, like imagine you're Missouri and you're kind of like midway through conference play. You're in about maybe 6th or 7th spot. You're on that bubble. You get a guy like Porter back. Maybe he's only for 8 games in the regular season. You string together a few wins. You kind of put together back-to-back wins in the SEC tournament. You make your way in to the NCAA tournament as like a 9, 10 seed, maybe one of the first 4 games at Dayton as an 11 or 12. And all of a sudden, you've got the top recruit in the class back on your roster, who's now 10, 12 games into his season, back's healthy. Imagine what that would do for your confidence. And imagine being the teams that have to play Missouri in the tournament, seeing a healthy Michael Porter Jr. back on the court. Like, they could string a couple upsets and maybe make a run as an 11 or 12 as a Cinderella come tournament time.
Well, college basketball is a big momentum game, so they definitely wouldn't be opposed to getting Michael Porter Jr. back. That would do wonders for them.
Like, that could be the difference in an NIT berth or an NCAA tournament berth. It could be the difference between them being a one and done in the tournament versus a Sweet 16 team. It could lead to a lot of potential for that team, especially if he comes back and kind of helps them with that momentum. So I think getting him back on the court would be a big momentum boost in itself. And then you start stringing together wins. The team's got confidence, and they're starting to roll, click at the right time, and work their way into the field. And then, as we know, in the NCAA tournament, anything can happen. So you just kind of cross your fingers and hope for the best of your Missouri at this point.
No doubt about that.
But I will ask, if you could pick one, would you take Trae Young of Oklahoma or Collin Sexton from Alabama?
Don't do this to me, man. I mean, both are absolute freaks at basketball. I mean, we've already listed Collin Sexton's stat line,
Mm-hmm.
but Trae Young averaging 28 points, 8.6 assists, 4.2 rebounds. He's got a better free throw percentage than Sexton.
By about 22 points,
And
by about 22
yeah,
percentage points.
but he is shooting worse than Sexton, but his worst is 477, so that's still pretty good.
Yeah.
He put up 43, 7 assists, and 4 rebounds against Oregon, and as the games have been going on throughout the season, he's been going up in points. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with either of them.
I already know where you're going with this. Let's just get it out now.
I
You're making it.
I'm going.
Taking
I'm
it,
going.
making it longer to add effect.
I'm going Sexton. I mean, what I saw from his performance in Minnesota. Now I know only so many people could get the ball, but just he put the team on his back. I like him in close games. I'm going to take Sexton. He's going to be a good player in the NBA.
I'll go opposite. I'm going to take Trae Young, just for the fact that he may be shooting a little bit worse from the field. I'll still take a freshman guy that shoots 47% from the field, shooting almost 90% from the free throw line. I mean, free throws are free. You want a guy who can hit those free shots down the stretch, and I'll take Young any day. But just the fact that a bit of a better facilitator than Sexton is. Mind you, they have different styles of play, but I mean, Young can still put up points. He can still grab rebounds. But he's also got good court vision too. I mean, like you said, over 8 assists a game, 8.6, I think you said. The guy's putting up numbers across the board, and like as his games have gone on, he's progressively gotten more comfortable running the offense. He's gotten better with each game, and 43 points against Oregon on one of the biggest stages of the year, the PK80. I'll take Trae Young, and based on the fact that I think he might be a 2 or 3 year guy at Oklahoma, as opposed to a one and done like Sexton.
Hey, that wasn't a part of the choice. Like just because he was going to be a one and done, that doesn't mean anything. But I'm gonna leave us. I'm gonna talk about a stat line you omitted. 3.6 turnovers a game for Trae Young compared to Sexton's 1.8. Just saying. Hopefully, though, Alabama and Oklahoma will find their way to play each other throughout the season so that we can put this argument to rest. And when they do, or if they do, we'll have to preview and break that game down because that would be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, 3.6 turnover. It's a bit concerning, but it is. The guy's 5 games in. They're both young. They're still getting comfortable, but they're still getting accustomed to the Division I game, and it's a bit of a red flag. But at the same time, when you're a facilitator like Young, you're racking up 8.6 assists. You facilitate that offense, you're going to commit more turnovers. The more you have the ball in your hand, the more turnovers you're going to commit.
Absolutely.
It is what it is, and I mean, the guy's putting out 28 points a game. I'm okay with 3.8 turnovers a game. If they're still winning games and he's putting up 30 points and 8 assists, 9 assists a game, the turnovers don't matter. I'll still sleep fine picking Young over Sexton.
That's a good point. I mean, I hope that Trae Young stays the predicted years that you had him staying, 3-4 years maybe. He's a Norman, Oklahoma guy, so hopefully, he grew up in Sooner country, so hopefully he'll say, you know what, I'm going to be different. Yeah, I was a 5-star, but not all 5-stars have to go to the NBA right away.
Nope.
I'm going to stay here and tear up college basketball, and I wouldn't be mad.
No, imagine what that would do for Sooner Nation and that fan base to have a hometown guy of Young's pedigree and caliber stay for 4 seasons, play for his hometown school, probably the school he grew up wanting to go to. That'd be huge for Oklahoma on the recruiting trail. It'd be huge for them on the national scale. But wouldn't it be ironic though if he transferred and went to Oklahoma State
That'd be hilarious.
just to play the other side of it?
That would be hilarious. I give that a 0.1% chance of happening, but that would make me laugh.
That would piss off a lot of people.
He'd be excommunicated from Norman, Oklahoma. His family would have to move.
It'd be even worse though if he committed to the Cowboys out of high school.
Oh,
I think
he would do it if Oklahoma didn't offer him, because I see a lot of guys I could see going to the rival school or the school down the road if their school growing up that they grew up liking doesn't offer them at all, just to show them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
it's good to see. Yeah. It's good to see him in that red and white of Oklahoma, though. Looks good on him.
Maybe he'll be the new Buddy Hield.
Be a better version of Buddy Hield.
Exactly. Well, at least he's starting now. Buddy Hield kind of only started in his junior year.
Be one of the program's all-time greats by the time he's done, if he stays 4 years. If he's a one and done, it's tough to make that argument. But if he stays 4 years, one of the all-time greats, you'll see his jersey in the rafters.
I'd love to be in his position.
I just realized that's a bold statement to say they're going to retire his jersey. And this will be online for public to hear.
I'll, in about, I don't know, how many years would you say until they would retire his jersey?
It's like 30. He'd have to do something big in the NBA too.
All right, so not necessarily.
Yeah, it'll take a while for them to retire a jersey, though.
Okay, I'll talk to you about this in 30 years.
On November 27th in 2047, we will readdress the Trae Young jersey retirement situation and see how my prediction is playing out. Probably not too well.
It's not another bet that I would take.
Yeah, I shouldn't go to Vegas, that's for sure. I'll stick to talking about basketball behind a microphone. A lot easier that way, a lot safer.
It's fun.
Nobody can see your face though. It's probably good for me.
I just came back from playing basketball, so I'm just all sweaty and everything.
It's a real treat. It's a real treat to look at.
Yeah.
Quickly before we go, we'll touch on the Big Ten ACC Challenge, which got underway Monday. ACC up 2-0 early on. Virginia with a win over Wisconsin and Syracuse with a win over Maryland. I think this is going to be a rough 3 or 4 days for the Big Ten. I just don't see many winnable games for the conference as a whole. Their best chance could very well be Michigan State over Notre Dame on Thursday night in the marquee matchup of the event, which we will break down Wednesday for you in advance of Thursday's game. But I think across the board, I think the ACC looks to be in command. I think it's favorites going into pretty well every single game for the most part.
I mean, a couple games that pop out at me. Louisville, Purdue might be Big Ten's biggest hope of pulling out a W. Considering Louisville went through their traumatic summer. They're still pretty good though. Their big top recruit isn't playing. Bryce Bowden. Is that what it is?
Bowen.
You'll
get there.
I'll get there. Virginia Tech over Iowa. I think that's Virginia Tech's. North Carolina, Michigan. I didn't like what I saw with Michigan at the Maui tournament. I mean, they got some good players, but they got no depth. Penn State, North Carolina State. I think that's North Carolina State's. Miami, Minnesota is another one that I could see. I could see the Big Ten kind of having a chance to pull one out in addition to the Purdue-Louisville game. You were talking about you liked Minnesota's height. I liked Miami's guard play. Any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Minnesota, you got to give them the edge. inside in the post over Miami, without a doubt. I think Miami's got by far the better guards in comparison to Minnesota. I think that'll be one of the closest games of the event. You touched on Louisville and Purdue. Purdue, like they played Arizona in the 7th, 8th place game at the Battle for Atlantis, so they're not doing too well either right now. They're trying to figure themselves out, get their situation sorted, and I'd take Penn State over NC State. Just Tony Carr has been playing out of his mind through the first 2 weeks of the season. I think he carries them to a big win. But I think you can make the case that the Big Ten only wins 3 or 4 games out of the whole event. I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of toss-up games. I mean, Duke and Indiana, that's a toss-up game.
It's a toss-up how much Duke will win by. Indiana's not going to stand a chance against Duke. That's ridiculous. That if you think
start off slow,
if you think Indiana has a chance to beat Duke, we might as well just cancel this now and call it a day.
Good thing I'm not saying
wonderful,
that.
Wonderful. We'll keep on trucking.
That's not a bet I would. That's not a bet I would take.
That's it. We should just call that not a bet I would take.
You'd have to give me points for that game.
I'd give you a lot of points. I think they'll probably beat Indiana by 15. Like they're going to throttle them.
It's going to take some time.
Indiana hasn't looked good at all.
No,
I'm not concerned.
Not at all. I could see Ohio State beating Clemson.
Like, that's one of those games that nobody's going to care about. Both teams are at the bottom of their conference. No one's going to care who wins between Ohio State and Clemson. I can tell you now, I don't care who wins. It's not going to affect my sleep any. It's not going to be one of those games I'm going to watch.
I'm surprised Clemson's not like a better team than what they are, considering like, you know, it's a good location to be in around Clemson. Their football program's pretty good. I would have thought by now maybe recruits start picking Clemson. I mean, Florida State started to gain some recruiting momentum. You know, they lost Jonathan Isaac, but the fact that he went there in the first place, I think, you know, in a couple years, you might start to see Clemson picking up some better recruits, start becoming more of a top team ACC instead of a bottom team ACC. But hey, we'll see what happens.
I mean, trying to replace a guy like Jaron Blossom game from last year kind of leaves them in a bit of a pickle. I mean, they got Dante Grantham and Marquise Reed, but they're trying to replace a guy who did a bit of everything for their team, and I think they're in a bit of a transition stage right now, as is Ohio State with Chris Holtmann coming in as their head coach, trying to fill a void left by Thad Matta. Came in a little bit late in the offseason, so it's a battle of two teams in transition that, I mean, the result really won't matter. Both teams aren't making the tournament this year, so even though Dan Dakich picked Ohio State to make the Final Four, I think he was drunk at the time, but
yeah, what is that about?
His son plays for Ohio State, so
okay.
Family ties. Ridiculous.
It's kind of like it's kind of like one of those brackets that you do, where you pick your favorite team. Now, good thing that, like, you know, your favorite team is pretty good, and that you can pick them, and they, you know, they might actually end up there. But like, it's kind of like one of those people that like, for people that like Purdue or, you know, Georgia Tech or Northwestern, and if they end up showing themselves in the dance, and then you pick them just to go, oh yeah, they're gonna win this bracket, but that's my throwaway bracket. So that's kind of like the.
You can't have a throwaway bracket. You only have one bracket.
Oh no, I don't get in with all that, you know, one bracket stuff. I fill out every single bracket I can think of, or that I have enough energy to do.
Those people.
For ESPN's tournament challenge. You're a one bracket kind of guy.
I do one on paper. Yeah, I'm one of those guys that'll print out. I'll print out the NIT bracket, the NCAA bracket, the CBI bracket, the CIT bracket. I'll fill one out on paper, then I'll fill one out online. Then I'll match my paper one.
So okay, so that's one of the questions I was going to ask you. So what if let's say you're in two different pools, you're going to use the same bracket?
You do the paper. You do the paper bracket, and then you put it in online as well.
Well, what moral standards is making you do that?
You don't need to fill out more than one. But I'm the kind of guy I like to write out the
Interesting.
bracket. Though. I like to print it out, have the physical thing in front of me. You can look at it. It's just I don't know. I'm a pen and paper kind of guy. I love it.
Oh, dude, I didn't say I wasn't. I like the whole pen and paper thing. Flip a coin, write it down.
Close your eyes and pick one.
Yeah, some of those games you have to.
Ask your fiance to pick one, and then she beats you in a bracket challenge. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, regardless of how much college basketball we watch, it doesn't matter. It just throw out all of what you heard to a certain extent. Throw it all, everything you saw, everything you heard, everything you researched from the regular season. Throw that all away, because come March, there's madness.
I had Nicole fill one out 3 years ago, and she based it off of the team's nicknames. So we have the matchup. She's like,
sometimes
what's their mascot? I was like, this one. Okay, I'll pick them. I like them better. Oh, ducks are cute. Okay, I'll pick Oregon. She beat me. She beat me based on nicknames. And I haven't lived it down
Oregon
since.
had a pretty
I haven't
good
lived
year
it down
last year.
since. For 3 years.
That's awesome. I didn't even know
well,
that.
there's a little factoid for you. I'm still embarrassed. I'm still embarrassed by it. I'm still embarrassed.
You should. Well, as long as you keep filling out only one bracket, get
Consistency is key. You don't need to cheat the system to win, Ryan. It'll get you nowhere in life. It'll get you in a Chinese prison for 10 years.
Gosh.
But with that, we'll sign off for the evening. We'll be back on Wednesday, breaking down number 3, Michigan State, number 5, Notre Dame, a game that is near and dear to the hearts of both of us, Ryan being a Fighting Irish fan, myself being a diehard Michigan State fan. So there'll be some banter going on for sure. Be sure to check that out on YouTube. Click that little red subscribe button as well for more great content as the season rolls along. Hopefully we'll have our third Musketeer back next week. Nico is absent tonight, but hopefully we did him proud, and hopefully we'll see him back here next week.
You know, he was pulling out apart his girlfriend's dad's flooring at 10 o'clock at night. Don't know about that, but we'll hopefully see him next week. So, you know.
It's a bit of a shady excuse on his end, but who's pulling carpet out at 10 o'clock at night? I don't think he likes us. I don't think he likes us.
What's not to like?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. But anyways, we will chat with you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.
Cheers.